Hello and welcome to Robbie and James Talk Music, the podcast where Robbie and James talk music. We're your hosts, Robbie Maxted, a creative writing professor,
and James Wicks, a professor of film and media studies.
This week's episode is an on-rotation episode where we each share songs we've been listening to lately, and then today we'll also be talking about what we are working on fall of 2025.
Yeah, that's right. So I went to a show recently, so that inspired the track that I'm about to play, and excited to talk about that and this upcoming season. Robbie, but you're kicking it off for us today.
I am. I need to give a little context for this song before we play it. So this is a track from Public Service Broadcasting, a band that I very much love and that some of my friends give me a hard time for loving.
Oh, really?
Because it's kind of a quirky, weird band. Not you, other friends.
Yeah, but I do know what it's like to enjoy an artist like Taylor Swift that you take a lot of flack for, depending on where the flack's coming from.
Yeah, like from me. Yep. This is Other Friends, though. So this is from the album The Last Flight, which came out in 2024. The track is titled The Fun of It. Essentially, this artist does concept albums, and so they've done a host of weird concepts. They're British, so back in 2015, they did an album called The Race for Space, where everything was space related. All the audio, like lyrics to their music, is pulled from either, I'm laughing even saying this, but archival footage from either film or radio. So it's all other people's audio that they're splicing and working with.
Awesome.
Which is pretty cool. So in this case, this is their first foray into not archived audio footage. The album is about Amelia Earhart and her last flight that she took, where she was trying to go around the world in 1937. And then obviously she didn't make it and was lost out in the ocean. And so because they don't have a bunch of audio footage from Amelia Earhart, they hired a voice actor named Kate Graham to record writings that exist from Amelia Earhart, both from the 1937 book that came out after her death called Last Flight, and the 1997 biography by Susan Butler, East to the Dawn. So they tinkered with the audio so it sounds like old-timey audio.
Awesome.
But yeah, this is The Fun of It by Public Service Broadcasting.
Hey, Robbie, I love this track. You're definitely on the right track when you're thinking about me being someone who is pro concept album, pro exploration, especially when you get into your quirky side of musical taste and interests. An artist or a band, I should say, that has a number of concept records that I absolutely love is a group called Godspeed You Black Emperor, and they have an album entitled Lift Your Skinny Fists Like Antennas to Heaven. And these are the kind of records that have 4 songs each, but each one is 20 to 30 minutes long, and they're just fantastic. And I love not only the way that this track integrates a concept cohesively and as the album does as a whole, but also the way that you're talking about using archival audio.
Yeah.
I'm watching right now a mini series on BBC entitled Shifty, and it's directed by Adam Curtis. And essentially, it's a history of the rise of Thatcherism in England. And at the same time, it's entirely relevant to this era of Trumpism in the United States. There's super fascinating correlations. What draws me to both Shifty and your description of the track is Adam Curtis entirely compiles the documentary with archival footage.
Cool.
So it's an entire this mammoth project in terms of editing previously existing materials, and by doing that, you comment on the present, but you also learn something about the past. And I think that's what's happening here as well. So super enthusiastic about the just the musical components of the track that you played, but also the composition as well.
Yeah, that is sounds like such a cool show.
Yeah, I
Love to check it
highly
out.
recommend it. I'm in episode 4 of 5 right now, and it's spellbinding. And so I get it when you're describing the ways that, you were saying while we were listening to the track that this song is so great and so fun, but there's a lot of darkness and just the bleak despair of where this entire storyline goes as well. And again, using the archival footage, you can take your current listener, or in the case of Shifty, a viewer, to what that time is like and was like.
Yeah, I think this is for sure the most upbeat of the tracks on the album. The first 3 are like kind of inspirational, looking at like Earhart, like why did she fly? What was her interest? What was she hoping out of it? And I just love the lines from this song. I do it for the fun of it. I do it because I want to. I want to feel alive. The irony then being that she like tried to do this in 1937 around the globe, and then ended up dying, which is what most of the rest of the album is about. It's a pretty grim conclusion to the album. But in interviews, the band has talked about how inspired they are about Earhart, and just how great of a person she seems like she was in regard to just wanting to accomplish things for the sake of accomplishing them, which is something that I think about a lot as a writer. Like, why do I write? The stuff that I write is kind of strange. It's not the average book that people would pick up. Right now I'm working on a collection of short stories where Bill Murray is the main character. Like, that's just something that I want to do and I have fun doing. Hopefully some people somewhere like it and enjoy it too. Or this summer I worked on a book-length essay about cuneiform tablets. Like, that's a pretty niche topic that it's not like everybody and their parents are going to Costco to pick up the newest experimental essay book about cuneiform tablets, right? Like,
Sure.
And so, yeah, I think you introduced me a long time ago to that clip of Rick Rubin talking about creating for ourselves, like for us. And that's something that I think resonates with me, and that I could see a parallel with this track from.
And in our previous podcast, we broached the topic of art for art's sake. And I really find the idea of art for art's sake problematic. And, I have to, when I'm pointing one finger at artists who do that, now I have 3 pointing back to me because I'm working on a photo book that is primarily art for art's sake, right? And I don't want it to be only for art's sake. I want to leave the world in a better condition than I found it. And so I feel like there's an obligation there as artists, as creator, to make a difference in our society. I know that some of the projects that you were talking about just now also co-align with this ongoing discussion that you and I have regarding the purpose of art. And you talked just a moment ago about your inspiration and audience, but how would you comment on this topic of art for art's sake in looking at the essays, these Bill Murray essays, which are so endearing and so fun, and this new essay I'm not familiar with on cuneiform tablets? How does your obligation or sensibility as an artist, and I know how much your pedagogy surrounds social justice issues, how do you think of your own work here, and maybe even in relation to this song, if I can make the question as abstract as possible?
Yeah, I think that in most of what I write, there's sort of like a grounding in some sort of large issue that I'm wanting readers to think about, whether that's in writing about the West Bank or Israel, or the way that archaeology is politicized. Those are often sort of simmering below the surface of whatever I'm actually focusing on. With Bill Murray, since it's fiction, those stories often are grappling with some sort of larger idea that I think is important or that I want people to think about. So yeah, it's like goofy and absurd, and Bill Murray's like on Mars, like terraforming it, right? But he's thinking about sort of like ancestors. He's thinking about his grandma while he's doing that, right? And so like what he learned from people who've come before him. So I'm always leveraging the like absurd humor of what I write, at least in the fiction side, with like the more important thing that I'm actually thinking about.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, that will work as a segue to the next song I'm going to play as well.
Perfect.
And so let's do it. This is Spoon's song, Guess I'm Falling in Love.
Every morning is the same old thing. Guess I'm falling in love. Every morning you're there again. Looks like I'm falling in love. She hurries out, you can stay a while. Guess I can't let you go yet.
Great track. I have not listened to Spoon much prior to this. You just saw them in concert though, right?
Yeah, I did. On August 27th, they opened for my favorite band, the Pixies. It's very low key. There's no real like special effects, no screen going on. Just it's the music. And it was really fun to see Spoon, having, been a fan for more than 20 years.
Yeah, I think that this track is successful in that it is like there's a lot of repetition in the lyrics. The sound is like kind of circular or something, which I kind of like. Why did you select the track for today?
Yeah, for sure. So one of our ongoing jokes is that my favorite band's the Pixies, and I never play them on the podcast, but just approximate them. And so once again, we get as close as possible via Spoon. I definitely like the surfer vibe of the song. I'm glad you said there's a cycle or circle to this song, because that reminds me of surfing and waves. And this song specifically, it's their most recent single, so it's on rotation right now for sure. But I just love the way that it makes me think about surfing. There's a surf film called Zone Frequency. That's probably one of my favorite surf films ever, and the opening tracks really sound similar to this. There's this kind of bell sound too in it.
Sure.
And my son and I, Dylan, he's a junior in high school. We have this ongoing joke that we want to make a playlist of songs that have bells in them. It's just this random assortment. And we have this joke that you have to have like a really confident ego in order to have a song with a bell in it. So that's the kind of the PG version of how we describe this sort of sensibility.
Amazing.
But so we have an inside joke about that. I've been a fan of Spoon forever. My first foray into them goes back to 1996, but I love their album Girls Can Tell in 2001. I really love Gimme Fiction, their album from 2005. And to me, this works as a fall track. As we head into the new semester, there's more space between our creative work. We have classes, we have meetings, we have students that we enjoy working with, but that separates ourselves from being always hands-on with our work.
Sure.
So songs like this that have this re-listenable quality kind of keep me in the zone, keep me in the mood of creating. And so actually, it's a question I wanted to ask you, Robbie. Both the song from our last pod and this one, I can listen to like 10 times in a row.
Yeah.
Do you have songs like that as well, that once you land on them, you get just stuck in that little eddy, and it's pleasurable just to get stuck in that circle for a little bit?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I find myself more often re-listening to albums than I do songs.
Yes.
Every now and then there will be a song where I'm just like, I could listen to this endlessly, which is often when I'm working on a project or creating myself. Somehow my mind just like tunes out the sound and is able to like really focus while there's just the same song playing.
Yeah.
But often I find myself more doing that with albums, where like I'll just listen to the same Bon Iver album like 10 times while I'm working on something.
That's awesome. I found that I listen to albums less frequently now, and I get stuck at the song level, but I do have two exceptions. Over the last month or so, I've been listening to SZA's SOS, which I love, like you, as an album all the way through. And then Freddie Gibbs, Alfredo too. That's been another one that, again, similar to you in this regard, I've been listening to on an album repeat basis. But I'd have to say that there are songs like this track by Spoon that I get stuck into. And hey, as we head towards the end of the podcast, I did want to jump back into the art for art's sake comment and just bring some closure. the way that you were describing using the absurd and comical in ways that have serious underpinnings, I would have to say as well that as I'm thinking about my work on documentaries about Taiwan or even street art, Taiwan itself is such a politicized space. So even to represent it as its own entity, let alone nation, or having this kind of political stature, is an inherently political move and gesture. So I really appreciate the way that you remind us today, Robbie, that even when we're discussing art or art for art's sake, it's going to be connected to these larger issues, and sometimes I forget that. So I'm glad that you reminded me of that today.
Cool. And then is that what you're working on this fall? Is more film?
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So while in the summer, I was doing a lot of initial sequencing for the photo book and did first cut of my upcoming documentary, which is a surf documentary set in Taiwan called Coastal Consciousness Taidong. Both of those I'll continue to refine. And in terms of the documentary, I need to get B-roll on there. And as always, the music that you and I listen to inspire us. And I know for me, specifically, a track like this energizes me and keeps me going.
Cool. Yeah, I can just picture you in the studio, like spamming out a bunch of B-roll very intentionally. I shouldn't have used the word spam. Very intentionally crafting B-roll
That's
with this song on loop.
Yo, you got it. That's it.
Awesome. Well, thanks y'all for listening today.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.